Hey, welcome back to Talk to the Moon. I am Moon. Today, we're going to talk about, as per always, how to live life better and to maintain our inner peace. In doing so, I'm going to talk about some cooking here. Okay, we're going to make ramen. It's pronounced ramen if you're going Korean mode, but we're going to stick with ramen just because that's what everybody knows. Ramen S, right? And as we're cooking, I'm going to talk about our today's topic of how it's okay to fail. Okay, it's okay to fail. So I will start here because this is how a bunch of my friends told me that they cook their ramen, right? They'll take a packet of ramen, they'll put the noodle in the water, like so, and then they'll put their little packaging of seasoning, like so, and then they cook it up. And that's ramen, okay? In this household, no, that's not how we do it, okay? So we're gonna let that one not cook, okay? And then I'm gonna show you how to do it the proper way, right? So you get yourself a little proper pan here. It doesn't matter what pan it is, right? And then as long as it holds all your ingredients. So you wanna have your water about as much as your thickness of the noodles are gonna be, okay? Not too much, not too little, right? And we're gonna use our house favorite, naguri, okay? We pronounce it on purpose, neoguri, but it's naguri, okay? It actually means raccoon. A lot of people don't know that. So naguri is raccoon. We're eating raccoon. No, we're not eating raccoon here. All right. So a lot of times people put this in last, okay? Here we're gonna put this in first, all right? And then as this is gonna start to cook, we'll talk a little bit here. So we're just gonna let the water come to a boil. And I chose this topic of knowing that failing is okay. Because I think the way we look at failure in our culture is very black and white. It's very zeros and ones, right? We were taught as kids going to kindergarten through 1st through 12, you either pass your class or you fail your class. You either go to the next grade or you don't. Right? You either get a job or you don't, right? You're either in the relationship or you're broken up, right? So there's so many like yes or no's. And I would like to try to shed a new light on that, the way we look at things, and not everything's a failure. And even if it is, it's okay. Like it took me 11 months plus to do one channel, one video upload of this particular channel because I was literally afraid of failure. Somebody who has failed at 9 businesses only succeeded in 1, okay? Which I was totally okay failing at all those businesses. And I'll do a whole different video on entrepreneurship and failing at businesses and what I've learned from that. But I was genuinely afraid of what would happen if nobody watches this, if nobody is benefiting from this, if this is a dud and maybe some people will come for me for looking kind of dull and boring on a video. So even though I've been speaking in front of people for 27 years, I genuinely had a weird kind of fear of doing this. And it took a lot of pushing from different directions for me to do this. And I've done some research on my own to try to give myself motivation to get to do this. So it's an 11-month failure that I didn't do this, okay? But now that it's in motion, I've gotten the confidence that I needed, and I have the motivation to keep doing this. So I hope that you are benefited by this, and hopefully I can find you to be entertained and you don't see this as a failure, whatever you're thinking of doing in your life, right? So I put the seasoning in there. I'm gonna do a couple more seasonings. This is a Korean red pepper flakes. It adds a little bit of spice, not too much into it. And this is my favorite seasoning of all time. This goes into every one of my cookings. And this is a sesame seed, toasted sesame seed. And it just makes everything just a little bit more savory in a kind of sweet way, low-key sweet way, okay? And I'm gonna leave that noodle alone, right? It's still boiling. Yeah, so I did a lot of research on people that started with like 0 viewers and they were just increasing their channel up. And that gave me motivation. That gave me some, go power. And then I've seen that other people are just doing their thing, and it wasn't like recreating or reinventing the wheel. They're just talking to people, and they seem to have found a niche of audience that they were vibing with. Okay, and then the final push I needed was shout out to Nicholas Ramen for giving me some YouTube coaching to say, hey, you can do this, you know. And my favorite channel is Maury, who I found to be supremely interesting and entertaining, and I felt like, okay, I want my channel to be entertaining like that. So you don't have to be the only source. You can find sources from other people to be able to do what you're wanting to do. And sometimes we just need a little bit of nudge from here and there to make these things all possible, you know? A couple more shout outs to Astral Dior and That Boy Will. Those folks also gave me some fire under my motivational need to get to this point right here, right? So we think about a lot of things as in starting early, like academics, as in, am I gonna fail? Like, do I need to go to college? Why do I go to college? What if I fail in college, right? These are thoughts that many of my students have had for years and still do, right? But is it really about getting a college degree? Is it really about getting a six-figure salary? Or is it really about you reaching your personal happiness, right? And that can be gotten in so many different ways. Yes, you need your salary, but college isn't the only way. Coming from a college professor, right? You can find many other ways to your financial success or personal success without necessarily being excellent in academics, okay? It doesn't mean you need to drop out of college, okay? It just means that one way is not the only way for you. You know, there are people that I have taught that are plumbers, that are AC technicians, and we're gonna put some hard veggies in first, okay? Like carrots, like onions, because they're gonna take a little bit longer time to cook. And those people get paid $120,000, $180,000 per year starting, you know, because they're in such a high demand and it's a blue collar job. It seems like not many people want to do that, but hey, if that's what you're gonna do to feed your family and sustain a life, and you're good with hands and you don't mind sweating a little bit, okay, that's almost a for sure way to your financial success, instead of busting your tail trying to read stuff over and over and it's not just resonating with you, because college isn't for everybody, you know. It is for some people, it isn't for everybody, you know. And I think once we find out that what is really for us, it becomes a little bit easier for us to find our own path, our own journey, whatever that may be. You may be a creative, you may be someone that writes, you may be someone that sings, you may be someone that draws, someone that does other things besides read books and answer test questions, right? There are many ways to get there. So this is boiling. Now I'm going to throw in other harder vegetables like potatoes and bell pepper and let that simmer a little bit. Or you might be thinking, you know, I changed my major in college a bunch of times. You know, I don't know what I'm doing. I can't decide. I suck at college. I've been there and done that, okay? I've changed my major 3 times and I turned out okay. And a bunch of my students have changed their major a bunch of times. They turned out okay, you know? So when you do change and pivot into something else that you're kind of afraid of because it's the unknown, it's okay. Things are gonna work themselves out. You just gotta hang in there and keep on chopping at it, and the path will open for you. You know, you just gotta trust the process and trust in you, because this is your journey. You know, nobody else's but yours, right? So having changed that major is kind of good, because what if I started being an accountant? Nothing against accountants, don't come for me, right? I have an amazing accountant, okay? But the fact that I didn't become an accountant, that's probably a good thing, because I'm more into people, talking, things of that nature. That's my jam, that's my vibe, rather than sitting in front of Excel all day long, right? That's for some other people. That isn't for me. So if I pivoted from that, that's a good thing. So whenever you pivot from one aspect of your thought process to another, that may just be a good thing, because you're opening another door as the other one closes. There's some tofu, okay? A lot of y'all are a little afraid of tofu for some reason. Tofu is made of beans, by the way. It's not some weird, unknown object. It's basically smushed beans, okay? So it's got a good source of protein, and it's easy to cook on just about everything. I purposely get the firm ones so that they don't like bust over everywhere. So I routinely use tofu. So it kind of tastes like chicken. Like everything tastes like chicken, but it has very neutral taste, right? Whatever seasoning you put on there, that's what it's gonna taste like, okay? And sometimes people think about the relationships and say, hey, you know, I tried to work it out with my girlfriend or boyfriend, it didn't work out, right? I got married and I got divorced. I'm a failure because I didn't allow that marriage to come to full fruition, okay? And I would say to that, no, not all relationships are supposed to go all the way. There's a reason why there's a 47% divorce rate. It's not because they're such horrible people. It's just they realized somewhere between the marriage and the divorce, they just were not meshing, you know? Not everybody's meant to be together, right? Now, we're gonna bust out one of the eggs. And this one is gonna be purposely swirled in so that we can get the egg to kind of like disperse into tiny little pieces, kind of like an egg drop soup in the Chinese restaurant. And the other one, I'm going to crack as a whole so that we can get that whole kind of medium done kind of egg, kind of gooey, but not too gooey kind of egg. Okay, and we're almost done here. And at this point, I can sprinkle some pepper. Okay, and then I would put the noodle in. This is where a lot of people go wrong because they throw this in so early on and then they feel like, wow, why is my noodle so tired? It's all weak and sleepy, right? Well, if you do it like this, you'll find that it's kind of like al dente, right? And then it's gonna have that nice texture in your mouth as you are chewing it, okay? So once that's in there, make sure that it's immersed all the way into the water. That's why the level of water was about the thickness of the noodle, okay? And then the last part. And just about everything, green onions go in last because they wilt so easily. So if you can take a look at kind of like the overall finished product, it kind of looks like this here, okay? And then I would say maybe let it be like that for 10 seconds and we're pretty much done. So if you're thinking that my relationship's a failure just because it didn't work out, yes, it feels like that. I've been there. Some of you have been there. A lot of people have been in that place where like, wow, why didn't I make this work? Why couldn't it work? What went wrong? What did I do wrong? Like there's a lot of questions that you may ask, and I think those are the wrong questions to ask initially. You can do a deep dive and ask those questions later, but I think the initial thing is, were we really meant to be together as a partner, you know? And if you really do a deep diagnosis of like what went right and wrong, and if you saw that there was a whole lot more negative than the positives in between you, you probably were better off not being together in the first place. But now that you are and have been, it's probably a better thing that that relationship in particular didn't work out. And it doesn't mean you failed. It just means that the things just worked out their course of its life, you know? So instead of beating yourself up so hard for the divorce, for the separation, for the breakup, give yourself some grace that it's okay to not meet your soulmate or your partner for life right away. Sometimes it takes trial and error. Sometimes it takes more effort. You've got to get out there and find people and meet people in order for these things to flourish in time, right? And then finally, some of you may feel like I failed as a parent. You know, my child, my kids, and I don't have a good relationship because when I talk to them, they don't respect me. They yell, they scream, they have an attitude, etc. I don't feel like I'm connecting with them. You know, what did I do wrong as a parent? I'm not here to judge you. Like, I don't know what you've done with your kids or what kind of relationship that you do have, right? What I do know is that we make errors. We all make mistakes. I take very, very high pride in the kind of parent that I am. I love my kids more than my life, and they are literally the best thing in my life. However, I've said some things that I said some things that were wrong, you know? They were erroneous. I should not have said those things. They have hurt their feelings, you know? And the minute that I realized that I did that, I thought about it and I asked them for their forgiveness. Hey, sorry I said that before. I didn't really think it through. Maybe I said it out of my upsetness. Maybe I didn't really process it through. Maybe I was angry at myself for not doing XYZ. That's why I said those things. I'm so sorry. Will you accept my apology? And if you have that kind of accountability, and if you have a good relationship with your kids, they already respect you, right? And they're going to forgive you in most cases, right? And have those kind of communication line where you feel like you're not better than your kids. No parents are better than their kids. I don't know why some parents think that. Just because you pay the bills doesn't mean you're better than your kids, right? So being able to be responsible for your own actions and your words, being accountable when you do make errors, and most importantly, literally spend some time with your kids. And if you have not done that already, start today, Do some simple things like go walk in the park. And if they're young enough, like read a book to them, and play toys with them if they're at that age, right? And if they're teenagers, find out what they want to do, not what you want them to do, right? Ask questions and do whatever they want as long as it's okay for you to join in that space. Try to get to know them better and spend that quality time, because I think that's where all the relationship building comes from, is with time. Without any kind of time put in, all the commands, yip yap, I told you so, I pay the bills, I'm the one that's running this house, none of that's gonna go too far. No matter how much you think you have control of your kids, I don't think it's about control. I think it's about relationship building, And again, if you've done things not so greatly so far, doesn't mean you failed. You have a foundation of things that you can learn from, and from that point on, you can do better as a parent. You can do better as a student. You can do better as a career person in whatever field that you're in. You can do better with cooking ramen, right? I think this looks a lot better than that, right? And I bet you it's going to taste a ton better than that there as well. So I'm gonna be the tester without hopefully burning my mouth, okay? Delicioso. Okay, you gotta slurp it. All right, if you're not slurping, you're not doing ramen right. Okay, so hopefully you can try this at your house and see some good results. See if I'm capping. If you think I'm making this up and how good it is, you try it out. Do exactly what I just did. Rerun this video and let me know in the comments if you think this is a better ramen or that tired little thing is a better ramen. All right, so I hope you don't beat yourself too much. Please give yourself some grace, right? Give yourself some room to grow and develop. We're all doing this, right? And that's how we live better. And then once you live better and you're happier, your happy-ometer is going higher, then I think you find a little bit more of your inner peace in your life. So thank you so much for joining. Have a fantastic holidays.